Hey James,
Hello, Sophia. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Hello, Drew. How are you?
Hi, I
I,
love your hair, Sophia.
Thank you.
I'm
You're
just
welcome.
waiting to hear from the curator. So if I'm quiet, that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to make sure the curator joins. So, give me just a minute.
Okay,
It's okay.
totally understand.
Are you okay, Sophia?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
It's just cold here, that's all. It's
Trust me,
really
that's
cold. They canceled school for my siblings tomorrow because it's gonna be so cold. We're getting like slushy ice here for the next like 48 hours,
yeah, that,
starting this evening.
yeah. Well, that's what they're saying for Conyers too. So
Yeah.
I know the feeling. That's why I'm still in bed because I didn't want to get in on my covers.
Oh, I get that.
Hey, Elizabeth. How are you?
Good morning.
Good morning. We have a few stragglers. People uh, but will be perpetually 5 minutes late no matter what I do. So,
You know what?
uh,
One of my only real New Year's resolution was not to beat myself up about always being late because that's actually me. So,
yeah,
I think it's not going to stop. There's too many things happening, kids, stuff, all the things. We're good. I'm
Good
happy.
morning, Elizabeth. How are
Good
you?
morning.
yeah. So we have Mr. Drew from Conyers
Hey,
and
Drew.
Hi.
Miss
Uh,
Sophia from Watkinsville, which is right outside of Athens.
Hey, Sophia. How are you?
Oh, good. How
A-
are you?
Good,
And
thank you. Happy New Year.
and we should have a handful of more folks coming as well. So,
Okay,
So
sounds
you're
good.
the so are you the curator, Elizabeth?
Well, that's an interesting question. I'm the director of the museum, but I did co-curate one of the shows that we're going to see. So,
Okay.
curator is usually the one title everybody knows related to a museum, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Um, but there are a lot of other functions. But yeah, I like to call myself the chief cook and bottle washer because
Okay. Okay.
uh,
Okay.
right, it's not a big place, so I can do the fancy things, and then I can be schlepping garbage all around. Just depends.
Right. Well, I've always wanted to get into art, but it's but art to me is very interesting.
Wait, who's speaking? I can't see anybody's mouth, and I tend to. I'm the
Mr.
daughter of
Drew.
a deaf person, and I always look at mouths. So,
Oh, sorry.
is that Drew? Oh, hey.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
Mr.
hi.
Drew.
Um, like I said, I've always wanted to get into art, but I've I found art to be complicated because when you when you when you talk about art, um, people say, "What is that?" and "Isn't art expensive?" and all that stuff.
It
Well, it's
doesn't it doesn't help that Mr. Drew lives in Rockdale County and the nearest art museum is the High Museum of Art.
which
So
is how far from Rockdale?
30 minutes.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
it's a good ways.
Hi,
So,
Julie. How are you doing?
Good morning.
Good
so
morning.
this is Elizabeth. This is Julie Bolt, my program manager.
Oh, hey, how are you? Nice to meet you.
Yes, nice to meet you. Thanks so much for doing this. We're so
Mm,
excited.
you bet. You bet. You bet. You guys are recording, right? So we can.
We can start whenever you're ready,
Well,
Elizabeth.
more people are coming in. So should we wait a minute so we don't have to
Eh,
restart?
yeah,
I'm good.
You know, that's why we record things as well.
There you go.
So.
Well, I was just telling the group that one of my only real, it's kind of a pathetic New Year's resolution is not to be upset with myself for always being late. It's not to be on time.
Love it.
That ship has sailed.
This sailed for me too.
You
I
know-
just, at this point, this is what I tell myself. I'm like, I'm gonna get there, so it's fine.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the person that's potentially mad at me needs to just be glad that I'm coming.
Right. And I know there's a certain rudeness to being late, but on the other hand, I mean, I'm maybe it's a function of my ADHD, but I do take on way too many things at all times.
Me too.
Hey,
So,
we've
you know,
all, we've all been there.
are you a do all the things person, Drew?
Uh, uh, sometimes, and then sometimes, no matter how hard
Yeah, I was about to go to lunch, but
how hard I try,
I'd rather do before lunch.
I
What's going on?
I
Hi,
can't
Ivy.
be on time for anything.
Yes, neither can I. I'm I'm the museum director at Oglethorpe, and I teach as an adjunct, and we have a new museum studies minor, and I just started a PhD, and I'm the mother of two kids who both have disabilities. So if I'm late, I'm glad I'm there. Anyway,
We all understand.
yeah. So you tell me when you want to begin. I'm good either way. I'm yours all morning. I can vamp too. Just talk about other stuff.
I think we're good to start. If for some reason if we get a whole bunch more people jumping in, then we can adjust. But I think we're
Okay.
good. I think we're good.
Okay, and I'll just acknowledge, hi Ivy, in the brief moment that your mic was off, you mentioned lunch. I'm thinking about lunch too, so we'll, wrap it up quickly. Also, my middle name is Holly, so I feel like we're having a Holly and Ivy moment here. It's the tail end of Christmas. There you go.
No,
Had to throw
no,
that out.
sorry. I'm going to lunch so that I can more fully participate in the Zoom call.
Oh, there you go. Oh, okay. Yeah. So, no, that's cool. All right, so let's start. So, my name is Elizabeth Holly Peterson Jennings. I'm the director of the museum at Oglethorpe University. Thank you so much to this group for the invitation, and your champions organization is very cool and exciting to me. Of course, James, as you probably know, is an Oglethorpe alum and reached out to me after you visited in person before these shows closed. So what you're going to see is a 360 virtual tour of the museum as it was up until the beginning of December 2024. So we're closed right now, and we're in the midst of changing our shows. About the virtual tour, that is something that was born out of COVID. And there's a definite connection to a former student, Miss Ariana Feiner. I don't know if you remember her, James, if there was an overlap. Here, let me just get out of my email, which keeps pinging. 1 second. Yeah, they're very popular. Stop that. I feel excited about it. Okay. So yeah, Ariana is she's on our advisory board for the museum now. She's very open about her diagnosis, which is she's a chronic illness. She's got hypoparathyroidism and now is in the last stages of kidney failure. But she is one day at a time with how she's doing, and she has been a tremendous influence over the years on what we do. So just to mention, yeah, the virtual tour and the focus that we have on access, not just coming from my friend Ariana, and also facilitated through the craziness of COVID, but also because I grew up with a mom who had 85% hearing loss. And so as I was just saying to Drew, when I couldn't see his mouth, I didn't realize until COVID that I read lips, even though I'm hearing. But I grew up with a deaf mother. My oldest brother has schizophrenia. My oldest son has cerebral palsy and is on the autism spectrum. My youngest son was on a ventilator when he was small and is now, he's got various heart conditions. So disability is kind of swirling around me at all times. And so I try my best to be a good advocate. And now it's made its way into, it's always been part of my professional life, but I've made it more central to Oglethorpe University Museum of Art. Why? Not just because it's the Elizabeth Hour, I love it, but because there is a very large community, such as yourselves, in this state, in the region, and on campus. And I don't know, James, if you and I talked about this, but we now have some statistics from the Office of Accessibility indicating that upwards of 23 to 25% of the students coming into Oglethorpe have either a 504 plan or an IEP and are eligible for accommodations. It's a quarter of our population. This is like 350 to 400 students out of our 1,400, which is huge, right?
That's
So,
very huge compared to what I remember.
right? I'm telling you, right? So I'm not sure why that is. I'm very, very curious about it, but it's certainly not because of our incredibly good elevator systems in every historic building. I'll just say that it rather cheekily. Um, which are, always need some assistance there. But there's something about the community, I think. Anyway, there's a huge number of students who are on the autism spectrum here, so many so that there's now a really active disability club. I think they have the acronym DANDIO. I can't remember exactly what that stands for. Oh, wait, disabled. Yeah, disabled and neurodivergent something of a. So that's just to give you a little insight into why I've been trying at least to make accessibility a central piece of what we do, not a little add-on, not a call me if you need help, but proactive. And so I am very, very open to you, anyone on this call, or friends, whatever, who experience the tour, to call me out and say, well, this doesn't work for me, or where are your audio descriptions? That's one of the things I know is missing on a lot of things. Please, if you want to give me critical feedback, I love it. So let me tell you a little bit about the museum. Let me try to share screen. Do I have the power, James? I got the power.
Yes, you should have the power, but I'll also make you a co-host just in case.
Thank you very much. No, I
Find
can't do
my
it.
triple dots.
Let's see. Let me make sure I don't have 1,000 things open. We did do a test run, he and I, to make sure that this was like gonna go smoothly and wouldn't have a lot of staticky, you know what I mean? But let me just close a few items to make really sure that it's doing well.
Can I ask one question off?
Oh, totally. Please interrupt me, whatever. Yeah.
Before we get started. So, Elizabeth, is Oglethorpe a liberal college, or is it mainly arts and theater?
Oh, so liberal, as in liberal arts. Yeah, it's liberal arts. Theater is a really strong program, absolutely, but it's a small liberal arts school with about 1,400 to 1,500 students. Some of the strongest, well, I shouldn't say strongest, some of the most popular majors with the most students would be business, theater, like a pre-med track, bio, chem. Yeah.
So it's not like UGA where it's science centered.
I didn't know that. Is UGA kind of really focused on the sciences?
Well, I don't know what UGA is classified as, but when I was there, it was a liberal arts college.
Oh, okay. So you attended UGA? What was your major then?
I was going to attend UGA. Yeah.
Okay.
I wanted to go into education, but then I discovered my disability was not gonna allow me the stamina to go into education. So
yes,
I'm
Gotcha.
so I'm having to rethink myself.
Mr. Drew, let's hold questions to in between the art exhibits. We need to get through this. I'm conscious of the fact that it's the middle of the day and Elizabeth has a limited amount of time. So let's
Of course, of
thank
course.
you.
Oh, that's fine. All right, let me try to share screen. I think I can now. Let's see. Okay, good. Are you able to see this now? Pretty well?
Wow, yes.
There you go. And if you go into the virtual tour yourself, I didn't want to do this. I wanted to make sure it was queued up. But if you go into our website, and I always find this fun, and you queue up the virtual tour, you go into it yourself, it drops you in. It does this dramatic shoo, which I think is very fun. It's like a little gaming moment. And I'm just a sucker for, bells and whistles. Okay, so welcome to the museum at Oglethorpe University. I am going to take you first as though you are coming through this elevator, which does work. Thank you very much. So those of you who have the capacity and the wherewithal to get here in person, we are fully accessible. The cab of it is original to the building, which is 1927, but all the workings were replaced 5 years ago. Woo! Okay, and then you would enter into this gift shop, small but mighty. And you can see that some of the things that we have been putting on offer here relate to the shows that we have. So this one is this says Art for All, and has someone doing the sign for art. And then another one is spelling art, whatever. So yeah, we try to reflect that. Bathrooms are on the right. As you head down the hall on the right, you'll see if I can go bit by bit. A water fountain. You'll see some really interesting photographs. Let me see if I can zoom in on them a little bit. And again, if you are working with, I've got a glide pad here, but if you have, the best way to do this is with a trackball and a mouse. You can get really close up because this is a highly detailed 360 capture to the point where you can see the credit information pretty well. Obviously, well, maybe it's not obvious, but this is George O'Keeffe by a fellow named Todd Webb.
Wow.
Isn't that nifty? So we have 5 original gelatin silver prints, not digital reproductions, blah, 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 but our wonderful collections manager and registrar, Noah Dake, who's Oglethorpe class of 23, took it upon himself recently to open all of these and reconfirm what we already knew, but he really wanted to see them. He was a photography major, and look under a loupe to determine that they are indeed gelatin silver prints. So Todd Webb knew O'Keeffe when she was quite elderly, living at her ranch in Arizona, or no, I'm sorry, New Mexico. And she was really a curmudgeon. She did not want people to visit her, but she liked him. So these are really rare, not just because they're beautifully done, but also because no one could get to her. She was like, leave me alone, stay off my lawn. She was that, that person.
Mm.
And you can see, here's another one. Let me see if I can kind of scooch you over here. And
Oh, wow.
I know, right? Look at her face. She's wonderful. No Botox there. Lots of wrinkles.
Well,
She's
no,
beautiful,
no, I'm just looking at the detail and it's
right?
fascinating.
Right? It's beautiful. Yeah. So let's see. We can move a little bit further down. This is her standing within a canyon near what she called a ghost ranch. A really kind of evocative, unusual. There she is, her little figure, and that is that's the sunlight between 2 huge rocks, and she's standing in the water. So we have
Yeah, that
5.
looks like
All
a
right.
reflection pool.
Yes, absolutely. There's another one that I'll show you in a moment. And then on the other side, there's the men's room. On the other side, I know, right? Does anyone need to? I know, like I don't usually do virtual tours. I'm pointing out things you don't need while you're here. This is the little tiny gallery in the middle of the museum. So the museum occupies Lowry Hall, which is at the back of the Oglethorpe campus. Give you a little bit as we're looking at this scene, kind of set the scene here. Oglethorpe was founded in 1835 and was at one point in Midway. It was in Milledgeville. It closed during the Civil War. They made the unfortunate decision to invest in Confederate war bonds, which was just not a good bet. And we all know how the Civil War turned out. So they closed, they didn't reopen. And then a fellow named Thornwell Jacobs knew that his grandfather had taught at the old Oglethorpe. And his grandfather told him what a wonderful place it was, and this, and that he really felt it would never come back. And that influenced him so much that Thornwell, who had studied to be a Presbyterian minister, decided to refound the college under the original charter. And so Thornwell was our president from the time it was refounded around 1915 on this campus here in Brookhaven, just north of Atlanta, until I should know the date. I want to say it was the mid 30s, early 40s. He was here a long time and he did not want to ever leave. I don't know if you know this story, James, but when he finally retired, he then worked in the mailroom. This guy loved Oglethorpe. He was never going to go. But it was under his auspices that all of these buildings, the three main buildings, were built on the campus. The one we're in here is Lowry Hall. And then there's Lupton, which is the administration building, and Hearst, named after Phoebe Hearst.
When did he stop working in the mailroom?
I don't know. I don't know that. Eli, the head of the library, would absolutely know all those details, but he never wanted to go. And another connection to him that's interesting, which I'll highlight because we're about to go into this gallery and look at some Asian art from the collection, is that his granddaughter, Carrie Lee Jacobs Henderson, she reconnected with Oglethorpe. She's a good friend to the museum, and she has given us a huge portion of her Japanese art collection, which was actually amassed by her father, John Lesh Jacobs. So there's a Jacobs connection to the museum. It continues, which is really cool. So this is the center. This is the hall gallery, and then this is center gallery that we're going into. What you see in front of you is, we've got just to give you an overview of this whole room. This is just a small selection of Japanese, Korean, Indian, South Korean, Indian, Chinese art from the collection. So just a kind of a sample of Asia. And again, feel free to interrupt me if you have questions or if I'm going too fast or too slow or whatever. All right, see if we can zoom in on this one. Anyone interested in guessing what this might be or represent?
I'm gonna take a wild guess and say the Last Supper.
Oh my gosh. Well, it is a group of people and it is religious. So those two things, yes. There's a group of people, it's religious, but it's not Christian. Who's this fellow in the center here?
Is that supposed to be the Buddha?
It's the Buddha. It is a Buddha. It's a Buddha. I don't know all of the different deities who are here, various attendants to the Buddha. These are clearly also religious figures behind the Buddha. I did have a South Korean curator. If one is working in a museum that has a general collection, you can't curate everything. So I contacted a Korean curator, an expert, and he told me that this is a wedding tanka. Here is the bride, and this is the groom. and they've got various offerings of rice and gold, and these are the children that are attending them, that are representative of the children they hope to have, and lotus flower, which is about rebirth. And you see lotuses all around. There's a lotus that the Buddha is sitting on. There's a lotus on the obi of this figure. And lotus, to the best of my knowledge, represents reincarnation, I believe, in Buddhism, because a lotus can grow up and out of the mud. It comes out of what feels like nothing, and it creates this beautiful flower. For a long time, lotus was the symbol of Oglethorpe University Museum of Art. My founding director, Lloyd Nick, I can't believe I didn't mention him yet in talking about the museum. He was here for 28 years at Oglethorpe. He retired in 2012 when I arrived, and it was his vision that built the museum. And he was Buddhist, and his focus was primarily on spiritual art, religious art, international art, and representative or realism. That's not our exact focus today. I've been here now almost 13 years, and it's changed, but we honor that core and that start that we had, right? Another weird thing about this, we're spending a lot of time on this one piece, but I love this one. It's not in great shape. You can see there's a lot going on over here. It really needs conservation. It's stable, so we've got it on view. But if you were seeing it in person, I mean, it's pretty obvious even here that the gold is missing. This is dirty. This whole face is kind of eroded. Why is it in such poor condition? The people who gave it to us admitted that they found it at, one of those kind of estate sales that you see when you're driving around and like, oh, estate sale Sunday afternoon. They went to it and they found it crushed into a Maxwell House coffee can. It was just somebody just wadded it up like a piece of newspaper and shoved it into a can. And they were like, what's inside here? Oh my goodness. So they saved it from oblivion. That's not a good way to treat art. So we're hoping to fix that.
That is insane.
I know. Is that a crazy story?
That's really
crazy.
crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. Conservation story.
That's so crazy.
And how old is that?
Oh, such a good question. And I do not recall the exact year. I would say off the top of my head, I can't remember now. I'm going to say it's probably the mid to late 1800s. It survived a lot, including being crushed in a can.
Wow.
So it's on our list for conservation. Speaking of which, happier story here. This 6-paneled screen, which is a Japanese screen given to us by Billy Lou Hance, who lives near Atlanta. Very nice lady who's an avid golfer. You can see that this is also needing some conservation work, especially at the seams, and it is now in the Conservation Center. I'm super proud to tell you that our very first conservation intern, Kate Arrett, is there right now as we speak from 10 to 12 this morning, doing her very first day at the center. So she's been studying chemistry, art history, and studio art. She wants nothing more than to be a conservation scientist, and we have our very first intern there right now. So that Conservation Center, Restoration of Art, is affiliated with the High. It's right over here in Chamblee, very close to us, and we're just super excited and grateful. So yay! So that's where this thing is now. Then flanking that, we've got.
How do you conserve art?
Oh, that's such a good question. How do you conserve art? And there's so many ways to answer that.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, it is really, really interesting. So let me see how I can kind of sum it up. There's two different sorts of conservation. One is preventative. So that is when it was explained to me when I was a student, what you do before the vase hits the floor. Like, what can you do to make sure something bad doesn't happen, right? And then there's remedial. What do you do after the vase hits the floor? What do you do when something's been damaged or crushed in a can? Or, that's very rare. I've never heard of any story like that, but maybe something has an inherent issue, like a wooden frame that one didn't know had a tiny infestation of a little creature, or that, things do age and crack. I mean, over time, right? If you look at a close-up image of the famous painting, the Mona Lisa, which you can find, there's really good high-res images of it on Wikipedia. You can go really, if you want to get very nerdy like me, you can look like very closely at it online. And there's cracks all over it. It's just covered with cracks. And it's also, that particular piece is on a piece of poplar wood. And that's all cracked. And it's been repaired a million times. So it depends on what it's made of, right? How old it is, what it's made of. Are you doing things to prevent it from deteriorating? Are you doing things to fix it? You could be in painting, adding where something's missing. A paper conservator could be doing processes that remove the acidity from paper.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah, right. But I have no idea, honestly, how that's done. But I mean, in just an average life, you'll see where something looks almost like it's a different color, where it's been like maybe it's been framed or something, and the edges of it have a kind of a brownish look when you look at it. That's called matte burn, and that's from acid leaching out of the paper. So there's all kinds of really cool things that conservators do. And yeah, I could talk all day about that. So don't distract me. Just kidding. Good question. Let's see. So let's zoom in on these ones. These are cool. These are porcelains, and they're from our good friend Ellen Kirstein. And they're
Oh
Japanese.
yeah, they are porcelain. I just now noticed that.
Right. So there's like a porcelain panel attached to this sort of micro suede backing, which is really unusual. Lots of texture here. Okay, so let's keep going.
Can
We'll
you
look at,
come there and like
yes, yeah.
touch it?
Now,
Is it interactive or is it just hands free?
yeah, you can't touch it, but I mean, we do touch tours like for people with low vision, and you would wear a glove, and there's certain objects like for sure we could have this one out and ready and on view. This is under plexi and it's not on view right now, but this
That's
is a
cool.
pretty robust object, and you could absolutely do a touch tour of that with gloves. This
I went
one,
to a really cool museum one time and you could touch everything in there and it was just a really cool, like immersive experience. I really enjoyed it.
yeah, there is a wonderful museum. It's actually this one I have in mind that's a kids museum is called Please Touch, and it's in Philadelphia, I think. And you're meant to touch everything.
I went to this place in Denver called Meow Wolf and it was really fun. They have one in Santa Fe too.
Meow Wolf,
Meow Wolf.
as
It's
in
called,
meow and woof.
yeah, as in
Oh,
meow and wolf, like a cat. It's really, really, really cool. You have to check it out.
all right, I'm writing it down. I'm gonna check that out. All right, so this last one we're gonna look at in here is another Buddha. He's a Chinese Buddha astride an Indian elephant. A little bit hard to see here. It didn't, with plexi and everything, but he's in a position of repose. You can't quite see it here, but there is a lotus under his foot, again, about reincarnation. And the fact that he's representing two different countries, he's a 14th century Buddha and has survived all that time. He's really a symbol of the Silk Road, which is cool. And all of those combining of things. All right, let's us go into, let me think where we want to go now. What do you prefer? Do you want to see the gaze or feel the music?
I want to see field music.
Let's do it. All right, here we go.
Whatever you want, Elizabeth.
No, I mean, let's make it interactive. This is the reason that James and I were like, should we just record it or have people live? I mean, you're here with me, right? Okay, so welcome to Skylight Gallery. This exhibit was probably the highest tech thing we ever did so far at Oglethorpe Museum, which opened in 1993. So it's been 32 years of low tech.
That's absolutely gorgeous.
You like it? Okay, so it's 360 capture, and again, you can go into this and explore it to your heart's content because it's up through January 30th at least. I may extend it. I'm side note, very hopeful that I can find a couple extra $1,000 and redo this for what we're doing in the spring. But in the meanwhile, this is up. But yeah, you can check it out at your leisure, move around, do everything that I'm doing right now. Okay. So this is a show. Oh, let me start over here. Sorry. I'm running around. I told you I have ADHD. We'll go over here. This is a show with 8 artists. I co-curated this with a really amazing person named Aletha Lindsay, who is the founding director of, there you go, founding director of Ikui Creative. And I'll read this to you because I think it's really, it'll sum up what's happening in this room. Music is not exclusive to the hearing community. There's a common misconception that deaf and hard of hearing individuals cannot experience music. Within these walls, you'll find that this is not the case. These creatives, who are deaf or hard of hearing, are breaking ground and challenging these limiting views on music experience. While it may differ from their hearing counterparts, they prove music can still be enjoyed in its full capacity, regardless of where you fall in the hearing spectrum. This collaborative and highly technical exhibition between the Ikui Creative and Oglethorpe University Museum of Art invites visitors across all spectrums of hearing to explore many possibilities of music interpretation through various creative mediums. The imagery within these walls will take you on an explorative journey of experiencing music through the recognition of vibrations and touch. Sound is made up of vibrations. Vibrations, when organized, turn into pitch. Then the result is music. For deaf and hard of hearing individuals, music is often sensed through vibrations in the same part of the brain that their hearing counterparts interpret music. This is how many deaf and hard of hearing musicians, dancers, and other creatives are able to experience music, thanks to a thing called compensatory plasticity. We can feel music. Music is a symbol of connection and self-expression. Music can be transformative, healing, and ignite togetherness. Access and inclusion to this experience is the bare minimum. Thankfully, the progress of technology and practice of more inclusion efforts as a society offers new and exciting ways of enjoying music across all spectrums of hearing. Come inside and feel the music with us. So compensatory plasticity is if a sense is not available, sensory responsibilities shift because the body is remarkable, right? So I know I witnessed this with my own beautiful 17-year-old who we adopted when he was a year old. He has a schizencephaly, so he's missing a full third of his brain matter in the left hemisphere where language resides, but he speaks because this brain rewired itself. Very cool. Right? Lots of OT, PT, and speech, which y'all probably are familiar with. So is that cool?
That's awesome.
Wow.
Right? So again, I mean, we're not going to be touring this thing for forever, but I'm going to just point out to you that you can approach these and click onto the plus sign wherever you find them and then look at the videos. So although my next step with this virtual tour is to have an audio guide for it each time, which I don't have yet.
When I went to Nashville,
Mhm.
they had the coolest audio remote. So instead of wearing a headset, they had numbers 1 through 10 on the remote, and you clicked each number, and it
Okay.
played through a speaker that only you could hear, like into your ear. It was so cool.
Oh, I love that. What do you remember which museum that was?
So it was the Sound of Music with Taylor Swift, Dolly Parton, Casey Musgraves, a bunch of people like that.
So it was something like that was part of Opry.
Um, it wasn't part of the Grand Ole Opry. It was its own thing. I
Oh,
believe
okay.
it was called Sound of Music Museum Nashville.
Oh, that's so cool. All right, thank you. I'm going to check it out. Yeah, and I'm right now. So just I'm going to click back, but if you click into those plus signs on the different black screens, you will go into the videos that were, if you went into into it personally in person last fall, you would have seen those videos looping, right? So you can check those out at your leisure. Let me go back if I can. Can I go back? Yeah, there you go. Oh, you're going to see how it jumps in. Here we go. It's taking me back in. Hopefully. Whee! I don't know. I'm easily amused. I find that fun. Okay. So as we move around this space, there are 8 artists on view. I'll start over here. This is a guy named Chris Fonseca. And you can also look at more information and his videos. Oh my gosh, I did it again. It's gonna give me that. Yeah, here we go again. Stop clicking on the videos, Elizabeth. I shall stop clicking on the videos.
It's okay.
Elizabeth, if you want to share the video, that's fine. Just make sure you're also sharing your audio so we can hear it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do that right now because I think y'all can do that at your leisure, right? You can go in yourselves. Is that possible? You can go in yourselves and click through them. So instead of doing that, I'm just going to give you an overview because I think I spent 30 minutes in one small gallery already. So this, for example, I just want to try to loop. I can't get close enough. Let me try again. Oh my gosh. Move over here. Move over here. It's not a perfect science. It's good enough. All right, this wall is Chris Fonseca and Cassandra Vidal. Chris is a breakdancer and choreographer. Again, everybody who you see pictured in these photographs and in the videos is either deaf or hard of hearing, somewhere on the spectrum of hearing loss and deafness, and all of them identify as deaf with a capital D, right? And y'all know what the difference is there in terms of deaf with a lowercase d, deaf with a capital D. If you don't, my mom, I did not identify with deaf culture. She unfortunately did not have access to ASL. She was born in the 20s, and it was at a time where people were very autist and prejudiced against folks with disabilities. And so she was not allowed to sign, which is really awful, but she was made to do just speech therapy. So she did not really integrate into the deaf community. And as you may know, the deaf community is a really vibrant community that has, there's any kind of community that has its own language is going to have a culture, right? So everybody in this room identifies with the deaf community, deaf with a capital D. So there's Chris Fonseca. He is based in London, and Cassandra Vidal is based in Munich. So she's in Germany. She dances more classical, but also hip hop. There's an incredible video of her dancing to Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. This beautiful person goes by the name Beautiful the Artist, and her given name is Brianna Johnson. She is based in Atlanta. So she was actually at our opening events and performed. She's a hip hop artist and rapper, and she's written her own raps and stuff. So check her out. This is also her. This was our poster of that was on Peachtree. It's right there. And this is also her performing. Let's see. And she does integrate a lot of like ASL into her, into her videos and into her her dances and stuff. Okay, let me go over here. Whee! Again, when you want to at your leisure click into these, I'm not going to do that because it's going to take a lot of time. But this is Antoine Hunter, who's flying over Zana Simon. Both of them are profoundly deaf, and he is the founding director. I think actually Antoine uses pronouns they. So they are founding director of Urban Jazz Dance Collective, which is based in San Francisco. Every time I mention California right now, I keep thinking about the fires. So hope everybody is evacuating. But they're based in San Francisco, and everybody in their company is deaf. So again, they're feeling the music through vibration, and very, very cool, right? So Antoine and Zana was here along with another artist who, forgive me, but I've forgotten her name, who's part of the company, and they performed as part of the opening. There is Zana. So more modern dance, modern and ballet moves, but primarily modern, not hip hop and jazz. Now this, oh golly, this I wish we could have kept forever. This is a highly interactive LED digital installation that was called the Cymatic Star 3. And it was created by this man, Miles Debastian. Miles lives in Portland, Oregon. He flew out here with the Cymatic Star in a giant custom-made suitcase. And I had the remarkable privilege of meeting him and then working with him to install it. Miles is deaf, profoundly deaf, and also has a progressive illness of some variety. I'm not privy to what, and is losing his vision. And so for me, the installation process was as cool as the result, because it was so interactive. And he's a very techie guy who, let's put it this way, Google consults with Miles about accessibility services. So he's all that in a bag of chips, as they say, right? So he had a phone on a tripod with some kind of app or software that was translating what I was saying. At the same time, I was doing my best to do sign language to him. And we were doing kind of touch to integrate while we were putting this thing together. So it was quite a remarkable installation experience. Cymatic Star has the ability to respond to your voice, to sounds around it. It was like a living thing in the gallery. And so you could snap your fingers. I mean, it was so sensitive to, it had a microprocessor right in the center here. Can you guys see my arrow here, cursor?
Yes, we can.
You can. Yeah, so right in the center was like its brain. And he could set it to different settings. And it wasn't just white like this. It would respond to you.
It
I
looks
hope that
sort
you
of
can,
yellow too. It looks really cool.
isn't it pretty? So it's kind of a yellowish white, but if I can't find, I have a couple videos myself that I will try to send to James to show you, but it would change color depending on the pitch and the sound. So it was radiating blue to green to red to, depending on what sound. There was one particular little bell that we have at the front desk. If you hit that bell, it turned violet, and then it would go to red, and then it would sort of, sparkle all throughout. Students were standing in the gallery singing to it, clapping their hands, laughing. It was so interactive and fun. And I wish if I had an additional like $15,000 just sitting around, we would have bought it. But that wasn't going to happen. Really cool. And it was all digitally printed, which was also incredibly cool, right? So that was very fun. And I'm a goofy person. It got to the point where I would close the museum and it was just always on. And I'd be saying goodnight to it like it was alive, So I miss you, Cymatic Star.
So cool.
It was very, very cool and very interactive. Like you were saying, Sophia, it was super interactive. Students were into it. So I will try to find some good videos of it in case there aren't any there. This is the only like 2D art that was not so interactive video that we had for the show, but we kind of wanted to round it out because we had so much that was focused on dance and digital. And so Elizabeth Mayton is the name of this artist. That is her picture over here. She lives near Atlanta. Oh, dang, can I see her? Oh, I guess not. I have to just, again, this is not, I don't have all the, if I had a glide pad, if I had a trackball, it'd be easier. I recommend a trackball. There's Elizabeth. So she's a 2D artist. She is also a teacher. Looks like a nice, friendly, teacher approachable person. And her work is mostly in oils and acrylics. And it's all based on sign language and also vibration, which is what this whole thing is about, right? So this, for example, is a painting of a person signing over and over again Does anybody here know a little bit of sign or no?
In a book my mom got, it like showed a few signs, but other than the few signs I know, like please and thank you and like bye. I'm not really that well versed
Yeah.
with sign language.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've been trying to, my mom didn't sign, like I said, and I want to, honor her memory. So I've been learning sign language for about
Really cool.
3 years. So this sign right here is beautiful over and over again. Beautiful, 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 beautiful. And that's just roses. That's not a sign. Beautiful roses. Let me back up a little bit. Whoa, how do I back up? All right, now I'm lost. Hang on. I zoomed in so much I can't zoom out. All right, there we go. This one, it doesn't quite capture it here, unfortunately, but this was kind of more of a almost a pink, and it glowed. It had a little bit of neon in the paint. So it was like it felt like it was digital, even though it was a painting. It's very big. Like here's a light switch so you can see scale. All right, let's move over here. Do, 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 do. All right, now these are tiny. One was on wood and one was on canvas. I'm going to zoom in on them. And this is interesting. I think it's a comment on accessibility. It just looks like two pretty people with little roses on their hair, abstract kind of, very calm, but it's actually about autism and aggression toward people who are deaf. Do you guys see why that would be? Remember when we first started talking, this is not an aggressive thing, but people don't think about it. Like they talk to you like this, right? And if you're deaf and somebody's talking to you like this, it's basically like saying, no, I'm not going to talk to you. So you've got one person like that, another person like this, and it's kind of a comment on a lack of access, because you can't see what's going on. Personally, I loved this one so much I bought it. I thought it was very cool. And I want to support the artists, right? So one of the things we do is also, as a museum, we try to support the artists and we buy work from them as well for the museum. We've done that quite a bit. We have a collection of about 1,300 objects. And a lot of them, if you can come to the museum in person, or hopefully I can find that money because I want to commit to the virtual tour. I will redo this tour in the spring, and hopefully be able to launch this online again. But there's a new show opening on the 17th and then one on the 30th here in the museum.
Is that of March?
Oh, no, 17th of this, no, like 2 weeks from now, like a
wow.
week and a half away, less than a week, I'm going to have a show up. And that's going to be drawn from the collection and all female artists. So that opens on Friday the 17th. And then on whatever day of the week, the 30th is of January, a show called Fragile Genius is going to be on view. And that's the art of Catherine Wiley and Buford Delaney. Catherine Wiley and Buford Delaney were both born in Knoxville and lived pretty much in the 20th century. They both had the same mentor, but the similarities stopped there. But they also both had a lot of issues around mental health and were both institutionalized toward the ends of their lives. Differences stopped there, or the similarities, I should say, stopped there because Buford Delaney was Black, gay, and very impoverished, and then became quite famous as an artist, particularly in the North, like in New York, and is still very well known. And then Catherine Wiley was white, straight, and affluent, and became very well known in the South, but not the North. So this is the first time they've been shown together, but they're from the same town. They had the same mentor. They've never been exhibited. So it's the last show of this season, which has all been focused on accessibility, disability pride, and mental health and belonging. So it's my plug for spring shows. So this last one, again, there's videos, is Robbie Wild. Robbie is based in Florida, and also sometimes Atlanta. As you can see here, he's a DJ and he is deaf. He is an incredible DJ. Really fun music. He was here for 2 openings we did and gave us a really good show. It was very fun. So that's Robbie. So one of the things we did was we worked with this group called Blackout Experience, and we had a silent disco where you put on a Bluetooth, or either you put on Bluetooth headphones, or those people who were utilizing like a cochlear implant or a hearing aids were tuning their device to that Bluetooth channel, and having like an experience of music in that way. It was very fun.
I've been to a silent disco. I would go to one again. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, they're really fun, right? And then they're also good if like my beautiful guy my son who's on the spectrum, and also myself, I've, with ADHD, sometimes there's noise is just too much. I can't handle it. So, I'll wear earplugs or something. But a silent disco is a place where you walk into it and you're not just kind of assaulted by sound. You can kind of handle it yourself, right? You can enjoy yourself without feeling like you're distressed by it, right? All that sound coming around you. So we'll definitely do that again. Okay, let's zoom down here. You guys, it's almost noon. I'm good. If you're good, I can keep going and show you the other show. Is that cool?
Yes, Elizabeth, we're good. Keep going.
Okay. So here are Japanese prints from the collection. It's a little hard to see them here. Let me try to zoom in a little bit. This is a triptych of like a little maiden on a boat and 2 men fighting over her. Oh, you know what? That's interesting. I can see now that it was actually, this is, captured forever on the video here, but it's actually out of order. That's terrible. Here's the middle of the boat. Here's the right side of the boat. There's the left side of the boat that should be over there. Okay, well, that's never going to change now. It'll forever be out of order. What are you going to do? Okay, moving on. This cool thing. Let's see how much detail we can get. Oh, this is awesome. Okay, here. Can I get closer? I can. Look how crazy. It's pretty good. This is a puzzle ball. Whoa, up. This is a puzzle ball, a Chinese puzzle ball that is made out of ivory. It is 3 layers of, let me put it this way. This portion of it, this ball, is about the size of a baseball, and it is made out of a solid piece of ivory. Accepting something that's ivory into the collection is very tricky. First of all, because we want to be absolutely sure that it wasn't imported after, I believe the date is 1976, because of ivory import. And we certainly do not want to be supporting the slaughter of any elephants or other creatures that have ivory. So we were very, very sure that it had a clear provenance, which is the history of ownership, and that we knew exactly when it entered the country, right, before we accepted it. So I'm just going to give you that disclaimer. We do not want to be supporting the illegal ivory trade. So this piece of ivory was probably from an elephant tusk, because it was a large piece, right? And then it was meticulously carved by this incredible artist who we don't have the name of, in China, to create 3 nesting balls, one within the other. So it was carved just like that. It wasn't opened and put back together. So when you pick up this amazing object, just this piece at the top, it has a little vibration because it's got 3 layers inside. It's fascinating, right? Then this piece is a next section. This screws into here, which has a base right here. This is the only part right here that actually screws together. Everything else is just balanced, one to the next to the next. So this piece is one. This little thing kind of fits in almost like a cup. Then it's got this section on top that goes over it like a little lid. You screw in this little base, and then you rest this on top and you hold your breath. So this beautiful object, obviously we put it under plexi, and I'm not even kidding that once we got it installed, I very carefully jumped right next to it. I kind of tried to create some vibration to see if anything bad would happen, because I don't want to leave anything obviously on view where maybe a child comes by, or anything could happen, and they decide that it's a really good time to do a cartwheel in the hallway, and then suddenly a Chinese puzzle ball's on the floor. So again, going back to conservation, let's be preventative. So I made it very, very sure that it was beautifully balanced, did a little jumping, put it under a plexi top, and there it stayed. And I'm happy to tell you now that it's off view, it didn't get destroyed. All right, heading down the hallway. Dun, 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 dun. Thank you for letting me do this, you guys. This is fun. I know I'm very goofy, but I hope that's making it more fun for you.
It absolutely is. We are loving it.
Okay, good.
Awesome. I love it.
Yay. Well, I'm trying to make you feel, like you're here, because, why not?
Yeah.
One of the things that my friend Ariana did, I think, that really opened my eyes. She's the young woman who is on our advisory board, who I mentioned to you has various progressive illnesses, et cetera. When the pandemic hit, and that you may relate to this if you're not someone who, it's difficult for you to get out and about in the world, out in the world. She's like, Elizabeth, when the pandemic hit, suddenly everybody was dealing with what I deal with every single day. She's like, I have immune compromised and I haven't been outside for 7 years. And I only go outside if I'm completely kind of contained and protected and have to go to the doctor. And that's it. And so when everybody was forced inside, my world opened up in a way that you don't even understand. And so we'd had lots of intense conversations about that, how she's a filmmaker and she was able to go to her own premieres because they were all online and she didn't miss anything. Or she didn't, I always keep her in mind when, like, for example, James, you and I were talking about, should we record this or do it live? I know Ariana would be like, do it live, because then people are with you and they can ask questions in real time and it's really happening. You know what I mean?
You should have had her join.
I know. I hate to tell you, but she's at the very end stage of kidney failure, and because of her fragility, she's not a candidate for dialysis or transplant. And she's basically one day at a time right now. She can't really interact. So she's, I think, 28. So it's kind of heartbreaking, but we live while we're alive, right? So she's a remarkable author of children's books about hypoparathyroidism. She created 2 films, one of which premiered at Cannes Film Festival. Thank you very much. Right? So she's definitely leaving her mark on the world, right? But yeah, I feel a little choked up when we talk about her. But she's influenced everything that I'm doing right now. So this is Reuben Gallery. Welcome to Reuben. This is named after Shelley and Donald Reuben, who in 2013 gave us what was at the time the largest gift Oglethorpe had received, is $2 million. Oglethorpe in the last few years, by the way, received a $50 million gift from, I know, it's a jaw dropper, from a man named Robert Hammock, who's also an alum, like from the 70s. And that was to the business school. And that really is, our business, let me say, before Mr. Hammock's gift, the business school was still a powerhouse. Before the gift, the business school, I'm so proud of Oglethorpe, the business school still had 100% placement for students, either in graduate school or positions, right? And his gift was so remarkable also because he didn't want a big old building with his name on it. He wanted it to go to the students and programs. So it's been really transformative gift. But before that giant gift, the Reubens gave us $2 million for renaming this gallery, which used to be the South Gallery, and for an exhibition series in perpetuity.
Hey,
Oh, is there a new person? Yay. So an exhibition series in perpetuity. So we do that every year. With a gift that large, it's basically an endowment and we can draw from the interest, right? And then it also supports educational programming. Don Reuben is an Oglethorpe alum, class of 56. This is a story I love to tell. He had the kind of dream only a 17-year-old would have, or 18-year-old. He was like, I'm going to leave my hometown and I'm traveling the world. I'm not going to school in one place. I'm going to go to school all over the place throughout the United States. I'm going to the South, the North. I'm going to go to Alaska. I'll be all over the world. And then he got to Oglethorpe and realized the practicality of that was maybe not so good. Like, how do you get your credits to transfer? And how much is it all going to cost? And so he stayed here and graduated. This room, which is now the Shelley Donald Rubin Gallery, was his dorm. This used to be a men's dorm at the top of Lowry Hall. Did you know that, James? James, are you there?
I did. I
Oh,
did.
you did know that? Okay, cool. I was like, you know all the OVA lore.
I have my microphone muted so there's no feedback. I also have lawn care in the background. So
Ah,
I didn't want you to be able to hear and see because I'm right in front of a window.
okay.
I didn't want you to have to be able to see my my lawn care people.
I can't hear it. We don't at all, by the way. I'm sure it's
Okay.
very loud to you, but we don't, it's not picking it up.
Well, good. Good.
Yeah. So let's talk about this show. All right, let's move over here. Let's see. So this was also a partnership with ICUI Creative. Let me tell you more about Aletha, whose work, she and I co-curated the other show that was about deaf creatives. She curated this show, which is called The Gaze, that was on view from July to December last year. There, look at that. That's pretty. So this is, let me double check how many artists. The other one was 8. This one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 different artists in this room. All of the artists, almost all the photographers, this is a photography exhibit. Almost all of the photographers are disabled. Everybody who's pictured has various disabilities. And why is her focus this? So Aletha herself is deaf from the age of 3. And I first met her almost more than 10 years ago when she was finishing her graduate degree at SCAD and studying sort of the intersection of art production and disability. Now, fast forward a couple of years and she founded ICUI Creative, which advocates for disabled and deaf artists in the US and in 17 countries. So if you don't know her or about her, definitely Google ICUI, IKOUII Creative. She's got a couple publications that are really, really great. And it's just a really good organization to support. It's not a gallery that takes a commission or cut from the artists. It's quite the opposite. She uplifts them and any proceeds are going to them and etc. So she's a cool individual. And she organized this. So why is it called The Gaze? I want you guys to tell me. Why do you think, even before reading that, why would you call an exhibit of photography of disabled people The Gaze? As in looking at things. Well, I'll tell you, you guys are like, it's almost lunchtime. I'm getting tired. Don't test me,
No,
professor.
I had a thought, but I
What do
don't
you
want
think?
to. No, the gaze. Maybe I don't know. I don't want to say the wrong thing. I feel like I'm at
No,
school.
it's kind of a difficult subject. It's kind of a difficult subject.
I feel
I'll,
like for a person with low vision, I feel like we see things kind of like blurrier and our vision isn't kind of as clear and it's kind of blurred out, so that's why that they called it the
Oh,
gaze.
interesting.
you,
See, this is why I asked, I mean, this is why I love teaching too, because I would not have said that or realized that, but you're bringing your own perspective into it. That's so cool. Is that Sophia?
you
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you for that.
you also have to realize that let me show you. Like when you're seated,
Mm,
right?
right?
If you're eye level with someone, you might be, you can look someone in the eye, but if you're seated, then, your perspective is different. Your how you view the world is probably different. Um, I know that there are many times where I go to like a doctor's office and I go up to like talk to the receptionist and I have to clear my throat a couple of times
Mm.
because
Okay.
they go to look up and they see nobody there and they go, oh, I must have heard some, I must be hearing things, and I have to go, hey, hey,
Right.
I'm down here.
I mean, your gaze has to go,
Yeah,
look over here.
but
Right. You you know what? I think I'm having an ableist moment. I'm going to call myself out here because I mostly have given tours to people who are not disabled, showing them around this exhibit and asking that same question of classes. Now, again, a lot of students, we got, again, almost 25% who have various disabilities, but those are not necessarily low vision or the use of an assistive device like a wheelchair, right? But I realized I did not expect either of your responses because I was thinking of it from the perspective of somebody who doesn't have a disability. Call myself out. So I think what she's thinking of, and I'm going to layer this in, right, was the gaze in terms of able-bodied people staring at people with disabilities.
They don't
And
see it like how we see it, is the way I interpret it. So we
yep,
constantly have to explain ourselves if they ask or they want to open themselves up to us, and vice
right.
versa.
Constant kind of explaining, advocating every single day. It's got to be exhausting, right? Hey, I'm here,
Yeah.
look down.
Yeah.
Right? Or kind of how you perceive the world. Well, one of the pieces, well, let's read what she wrote first, and then I'll say what it means to me as well. Let's see. So this is Nietzsche. She's getting deep here. She's quoting Nietzsche. If you gaze for long into an abyss, the abyss also gazes into you. The nearby walls present works drawn from a wide range of photographers with innovative portrayals that disrupt the narrative of disability. They're approaching their work in ways that embrace a different meaning, enacting change, and raising important questions about disability identity through ideas, crafts, and processes they use. The photographers each skillfully capture a unique perspective on disability from their lens, offering viewers an intimate glimpse of the day-to-day lives of those living with disabilities. The ICUI Creative Invitational exhibit takes us on a journey that explores ingrained internalized ableism and inclusion in conjunction with acceptance and advocacy within the disability community. Individual and collaborative works, as well as works by disability identified and non-disabled photographers, are presented in this exhibit. The selected works aim to raise awareness about disability issues and mobilize support for the dignity, rights, and well-being of persons with disabilities. This exhibition presents a rare opportunity for people to view work where disability, accessibility, and ableism intersect. Viewers are to consider each photographer's illustrative perspective on disability. This exhibition invites us all to collaboratively work toward a utopic world where diversity, inclusion, accessibility is as natural a response as breathing. And I love the way she writes, and I love the fact that she says breathing, and then she started the exhibit with Patrice Fortlage. There's a little bit of a reflection on this photograph from the room, but I'm going to zoom in on it as much as I can so you can see her. This is a self-portrait. So of these artists, Patrice Fortlage, Malik Question ATL, Leroy Moore, Jacqueline Ramin, and India Harville, and Efrat Vakmin all are doing self-portraits. The others are photographed by other people. One of the photographers is able-bodied. All of the rest are not. So Patrice has various disabilities and some progressive. I do not know any of her diagnoses, but I know that she is in this image wearing a nasal cannula, right? She's getting oxygen, which she usually does.
Mhm.
But she's turned it into.
Oh, that's kind of cool. I relate to that because when I was little, I did this thing called hyperbaric oxygen therapy. And
Right?
every time we got in the chamber, you had to put on the nose piece, the cannula,
Yeah,
provide more oxygenation to the brain.
right. My oldest son did that too. This is kind of funny. He did that at one of his schools. He was kind of in a therapeutic school for a semester, and he was very little. He was probably like 7. And when he got mainstreamed again, he was like, "Where's my hyperbaric chamber?" I was like, "Oh, honey, not every school has one of those." But
That's
I know, and he was
hilarious.
like, "I need my hyperbaric chamber." So,
Hilarious.
right. So she's got a nasal cannula, and she's, kind of relating to the naturalist breathing with the butterflies, which is super cool. So let's move around the room. And I'll tell you now that we've read that, what I take this to, the way that this hit me was as a generally, I'm getting older, so I have some physical differences, but I'm generally able-bodied and have been my whole life, but sort of surrounded by disability in my family, right? So for me, it's like about advocacy, and it's about that thing that so many of our parents tell us, those of us who are able-bodied. And this is true when I was a little kid in the 70s and 80s, and today, according to my students, their parents say, acknowledge the person with a disability, but don't stare, but also don't really look at them, but also kind of engage, but don't really engage, but kind of, acknowledge their presence and then move on. So it's like makes you paralyzed. Like, okay, you meet somebody who has an obvious physical difference and you kind of freak out. And so you end up either staring at them or walking away or just acting inappropriately because people don't know what they're doing. And I'm sure y'all know what I'm talking about. Right?
Yeah.
So this is something that a lot of the students that came through this space were like, yeah, that's my parents definitely told me that, and I had no idea what to do with myself. So the
Yeah.
gaze, I think, gives you permission, and it is that it's uncomfortable because it's an intersection of understanding your own ableism and or understanding disability.
Sometimes you get a kind of off-color question, but it's how
Right.
you respond to it that really makes the difference with the relationship with that person.
That is a really good point. Yeah, I think of those as it's the teachable moment. Like as a daughter of a deaf person, my mother was often asked really stupid things or really, really offensive things or disregarded or, asked if she had any education or, she wouldn't hear something and people would scream it back at her. And I was from a very young age, the person saying, my mom can't hear you. She's not stupid. You know what I mean? There,
Yeah.
those moments, right? All the time, which is exhausting. But one of the things I've realized too is, my kids are not only disabled, but they're African American. And I'd get ridiculous questions about that were completely racist. Sometimes interacting is worthwhile, but other times you're like, you know what? I don't have the energy for you to educate you about the circumstance. You know what I mean? I don't know if
Yeah,
Sophia,
I get that.
right? Where you're like, no, moving on. I
Yeah,
gotta get away from this
yeah,
person.
yeah. I
Okay, these
understand that too.
right. Have you done that before where you're like,
Absolutely, yeah, for
I
sure.
gotta, I'm gonna disconnect here.
Mhm.
This one is kind of, I love it. She's got a sense of humor around her various progressive illness. So this is her like thinking about the fact that she has a limited amount of energy for various things, and her battery is not the same as other people's, and so she's showing herself pretending to drink from a big bag of batteries to get ready for the day. She's so funny. So, but she's like, yeah, I need to recharge. So that's her recharging. And then this is like embracing her scars. She had to have a major back surgery, so she's got like scars in her lower back, and kind of likening that to a string of pearls, um, and embracing whatever various medical procedures she's endured and that have kept her where she is here on the planet. Let's see. Now, this one on the left is Leroy Moore. He's a former hip hop artist and disability advocate. I have to admit, I don't know a whole lot about every artist in this show, so I'm gonna go a little bit more quickly. But that is a self-portrait. And this one, I think is, let's see, Jelani Morgan. again, a disabled artist who is photographing themselves. PhD, very cool academic. This one is a collaboration between two artists, Efrat Vaknin and Ron Uriel. They're most of the artists we're looking at in this room are based in the United States, all over the US. These two are, this is pictures of Efrat. They're in Israel. And they focus on the intersection of disability and sex. And that, I think part of ableism is assuming that people who are disabled don't have sex, or asexual beings, or, there's a whole bias around understanding that people have their own agency in their lives and all of that, right? So she just kind of really explores that. So she's got her wheelchair tipped over and she's, come hither, fallen into the ground intentionally, ready. And in this one, there's a lot. I was like, I don't know if I can show all of these. So I went through a lot of them that are very, very explicit and came up with these two. So this is her kind of before, and this is her smoking after, which is, of course, the metaphor for sex. So there's that. I'm going to point out there's two little tiny alcoves. Say you do come to the museum in person, which if you can, I encourage. Should be, again, open by the end of the month. These little alcoves, when I arrived, used to be just for storage. We repainted them and they go back in here, kind of like you walk in and then they're not big. They're like the size of a large walk-in closet, but I wanted to create a space where commuters could hang out. And ultimately, I'm hoping I can make like a little door on this and make it into a sensory room for the students on the spectrum. But right now, anybody can just come and hang out. All right. This was a blackboard. By the time the show closed, it was completely full. Let's see if I can come up closer. There you go. And people just could write anything. So it was, I started out the blackboard and wrote the Mary Oliver quote, "Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life?" And then we just filled it up. Impactful, insightful. People were putting tags up and stuff. I was like, don't do that.
It's really cool.
It was really fun. Like, as a disabled deaf person, I feel seen, Northie. Nice to see different perspectives. One just wrote mom, whatever they wanted. Awesome. Well, Letha is the mother of the curator, Aletha. She wrote that. And scooching on down here, this, I wonder if let me see if you can. No, we didn't do the video on this, but you can look it up. I highly recommend you do, because I couldn't do video on everything. But this is Jacqueline Ramin, and she is based in California. Let me zoom in on some of these. She utilizes a wheelchair and she's an activist. Pretty, pardon my language, kick-ass person who finds different places that she would like to go that are completely inaccessible, plants herself there, and she's photographed and then also videotaped while people walk around her to see what their reaction is, and also to see if she can affect change. And she has. So if you read, I recommend you read a bit about her. Most of what she's done has been around California, where she lives. And some of the video, we had an hour-long video that she shared with us, and is inspiring, and others is like very upsetting. People swearing at her, moving around her. Then there's some people who are like, "I'll carry you up the stairs." She's like, "Yeah, no thanks." And then in some instances, she was like, "Okay, let's do this thing." But there are some, like this one, I think is the one with a staircase, and at the very top is an accessible bathroom. It'd be funny if it weren't so not funny, right? So she has gotten places shut down, and she's also gotten places fixed. Because there's nothing quite like, as James knows, somebody just getting there in a space with a chair and like doing what they got to do. I will never forget you doing that on campus, where you were like, "I'll go on the road if I have to. I will just, make my way up the stairs if I have to," right?
Yeah,
So this is
when they
right.
didn't have the path, the shawl walkway, I had to go around sometimes.
Right, because that shell walkway, I hope it's like a decent grade, right? But before it was at this ridiculous
Oh, it
pit.
is. It is.
It is.
And
I was, yeah.
yeah.
Does that lady have a website or just a Facebook and a LinkedIn?
I'm sure she does. I will send it to James. You give it to
Oh,
you.
okay.
Yeah, she's super cool. Um,
Where
yeah,
does
what you
she
were,
live?
she's in California. I think she's in the LA area. I hope she's all right.
I should make a point of reaching out to her. I think she might enjoy it. She'd be a good speaker for us, actually.
Right, right. She's really, really, really interesting.
So,
And yeah, the video that she shared is it just kind of rolls on and on and on, like it goes for about an hour of her just sometimes she's speaking, but it's really kind of like, as they say in film, B-roll. So it's just her sitting there waiting for somebody to walk by her and see what their reaction is. And again, some people are like, oh, I'm sorry, yeah, that's crazy, you can't get in there, but then they go in. And there's at least a couple of people who are like, get the hell out of my way. We're like, oh, good. There's a Barca lounger in hell for you. Really not nice humans. But
I remember when I was living abroad, um, they didn't always know if the elevator worked at the train station. All the train stations were accessible, but
okay,
they didn't always know if the elevator worked.
right,
And I was like, I'll I would try to call them and see if it would work, and sometimes they would know and sometimes they wouldn't.
right,
And I would just shrug my shoulders and go, there's no point in calling them. I'll go there. If it's not working, I'll figure it out. And I remember the first time that I actually went somewhere and the elevator was like genuinely not working. And the only way for me to get up, if not the stairs, would have been to wait for another train to come, get on the train, and then like go to another go to another
right,
station. And as I was sitting there in front of the stairs trying to figure it out, kind of like she is, there were these four gentlemen who didn't even really talk to me, or even each other. They just kind of like glanced at each other like all together, and there was like a silent nod of agreement. And before I even knew what was happening, they actually all four together picked up my wheelchair, carried it up this flight of stairs before I could even react, and then put it down. And
I
that
hope that,
was
I mean, that could either be wonderful or totally upsetting, somebody just grabbing onto you without your
like,
permission. But
uh, I was a little, it was a little rattling, but
yeah,
I
yeah.
was very appreciative because otherwise I would have really had to figure that out.
Oh my
Um,
gosh,
but I still remember that fondly because they went with each other, like they went together.
it was
They
like four people just kind of coalesced and was like, let's do this thing.
four random strangers looked at each other and just did
What
that.
city were you in? Where did you go overseas?
That was that was Spain.
Wow,
Um,
where in Spain? Where were you?
at that point, I was probably that was probably somewhere in the province of Valencia, not the city of
Oh,
Valencia. Yeah, probably
I've
somewhere in the
never been there.
Valencian province, which is like the entire southeastern region of Spain.
Oh wow.
So,
That's wonderful. I went to Spain once on a business trip, but I was only there for 3 days in Madrid, and it was just
mm,
beautiful, unbelievable.
it
But
is
still,
wonderful.
if you were in New York and you were stuck there, I mean, New York. Lived in New York. I'm from New York, but New Yorkers would
Yeah,
just step over you. They'd just be like, "I got to know,"
yeah.
like, right?
Mm.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have her direct contact, but I can definitely give you her info. She'd be a remarkable speaker, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Um, so let's see, let's keep going. Oh, here you can see if you visit the ICUI website, this one is out of print. That's the first
yes.
version of Inside Their Studio. And then this one we're actually selling in the museum, or you can get it directly from her. So,
Julie, you have that book actually.
oh yeah, this one?
Yes. I bought it from the museum and I gave it to Julie, although I don't know if she remembers that I did
Oh,
that.
nice. Yeah, yeah.
So
So let's see. Let's keep going around the room. We have a bunch of these up lights. I'm just point out that mostly again for people with like actually with low vision or also those who might be using sign language. You know, you can't always have bright light on art objects, but I wanted to be sure we had an option if somebody has low vision. We have like 4 of these that are kind of off to different sides in the museum, and we could pull them out, adjust the light up and down, really bright or really dim, um, and it's directional. They can move. They also can be switched from warm, like yellow light to white light, depending on what helps somebody see better. So, like Sophia, you mentioned, you have kind of
Awesome.
issues. Yeah, so if you come visit, let me know. All right, so this is, we're almost done. This is India Harville self-portrait on the right. I don't, again, know everything about each person in this room, but I'm going to show you their pieces. There she is. That's self-portrait. And then this is a self-portrait by a guy who goes by the name of, well, it's not a self-portrait. Let me take that back. It was by Shin Shatit, who photographed Question ATL, or Malik, but he goes by Question ATL. He is a rapper who is blind. I love this photograph. You can see like this huge object over here on the right is the bottom of his sneaker. So he's got his like sneaker right up by the camera, kind of like I'm holding my hand up by the camera right now, leaning back, right? And there on the side is his cane, kind of looking up. But he's in Atlanta, and he and his mom, who acts basically as his manager, she calls herself Mama Question. She's super cool too. They were at the opening as well, which is really fun. All right. So, you know, people with all different disabilities. I think I just passed one that's very cool. I don't want to pass. Hold on. Here you go. This is JPEX Belmer's portrait. And, you know, kind of like the other portrait by Efrak Vakmin, I think a lot of people who are not in the disability community don't understand just how viable people can be. For example, you could be, you know, disabled in a physical way and still be a dancer. So she's a classically trained ballerina who utilizes different assistive devices.
Oh wow.
That was cool. I loved this show. I was sad when we took it down. And this is Bronte Grimm. We got 2 of her photographs on view. This is a self-portrait. I'll be honest, I can't remember exactly what her various disability is, but or what she means by this, but it's a beautiful, evocative portrait.
is it in the description?
Yeah, let's see. I don't know if I can send you the description. I don't know if we can read it. Can we get that close? We sure can. What the heck? I love my photographer. So
Be a trans disabled activist.
she's trans, disabled, Jewish, queer lens. It tells, I don't think it's going to tell us exactly what this is. Her experience as a Jewish, non-binary, trans, disabled person. Oh, okay. Oh, Jewish mysticism and mythology. Why she's got the candles, though, I'm still not sure. Let's see. Every aspect carries symbolism, from the color of the background, the amount of skin exposed, the way the fingers are posed. So it's got meaning, but we don't know. I have pumped up our font size also to try and make sure that we have a good high contrast of like black on white, but I think based on how blurry this is, we should pop it up a little bit bigger next time, so it's captured better. I'm editing myself as we go. Okay, this is also Bronte Grimm, and this one is somebody covered entirely with flour. Like the person is, that's not a self-portrait, but she's an African American person who's almost posed like Vermeer's girl with a pearl earring, and she has a pearl earring, but she's turned, and her bare back, you can see the side of her breast and her bare back, and it's all covered with flour. And this was a comment on the sensitivity of touch and just the physicality of disability. Just a really beautiful, beautiful, beautiful photograph. And then the last one I'll show you is somebody who's super prominent in the Atlanta disability community. Jessica Blinkhorn, if you know her, but photographed by a non-disabled person whose name is Dave Rowland. Jessica is has become a friend of mine. I'm connected with her on social media. She and her siblings all have a similar disability that's progressive. She utilizes a chair, and a lot of her work is around sexuality and power and S&M and bondage and things that a lot of people, again, who are ableist don't assume that anybody who's disabled would be into, right? So this is one of her mildest images ever. If you Google her, she's very radical and a very cool individual. She told me recently that she got a Guggenheim Fellowship, which is really hard to get, and gave me a little bit of insight into the fact that she had to set up kind of a, not a foundation, but a separate LLC for herself to be able to accept the funding, because she didn't want to accept it and then lose her like ability to pay for her caregiver, right? So there's that whole very difficult conundrum of, you know, wanting to work, but also if you work too much, you make too much money, then you can't keep your benefits, right? Which is very disheartening and not fair at all. But to get around it, she set up like an LLC, right, to accept her money into that, so that she could then put it right back into her art. The guy I showed you in the other room who made that beautiful star, Miles Sebastian, same thing. We had actually issued a check directly to him. He was like, no, do not send me a check. It's going to my company. You're not going to be the person who makes me lose my disability benefits, right? So that is everything that was on view up until December of last year. Right now we're closed. So for me, it's very happy to also not only meet everybody here, I'm going to stop the share, but to also take another look at shows that I miss that I loved having on view for last semester. Are there other questions before we sign off?
Elizabeth, why haven't you signed your kid up to be a Titan?
Why haven't I signed my kid up to do what?
To join our nonprofit. We have all kinds of events for folks who have cerebral palsy and the like. So
I don't know. I don't know. You know, time, 24 hours in the day. You know, you mentioned it to me, and I went right home and told my wife, and I was like, we should do this
yeah.
thing for Tariku. And then I forgot, and life intervened, and then there was Christmas. I don't know. I would love to.
That
I
does
did
happen.
mention it to him. I said that I think, you know, he's really interested. So yeah, I'd love to.
Well, we're still here. We're always around, and we're very grateful for your time.
Thank you.
Um,
How was your little
awesome.
Oh,
Do
you
you
enjoyed it?
spell the last person's name you were talking about?
Jessica?
Blinkhorn.
I think so. Let me look at her page here for a second. But I can send you links to the various. Yeah, it's Blinkhorn.
I believe I know her in passing, and I did not know that she was involved with some of the stuff that she's involved with. So I'll have to reach out to her and go, "Hey, I heard about
Hey,
you."
what are you doing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like here, let me show you one other thing here. This is not about Jessica, but
Yeah.
I'll just share really quickly one more time if I may. Even though the shows are closed, if you go into our exhibition page and go to past shows, you can still see information about all the different exhibits we've had over the years. So here, for example, is the Feel the Music landing page, and it actually has all of the Instagram for everybody and everybody's name. The other page for the gays does not have all the artists. And in fact, this is one of the artists who we didn't include, but the photo was too cool to not include on our page. But I can send any, like, you want to get in touch with Jacqueline, I'll send that to you, whatever. Right.
It's definitely worth exploring.
Okay. Well, listen, let me know if you want to do this again. I will let you know when the, I'm really going to try hard to, what do they say? Rob Peter to pay Paul and find money to do the tour again. Each time we do the entire museum, it's in the neighborhood of $4,000. It's like, I can't do it, but you know what? I have to prioritize this, right? This is important.
Is that mostly the actual film crew?
Well, it's only one person, but it's the processing of it and the capturing of all the images, and then he stitches them all together, and then he adds the video, and so it's a lot, right? And there's the hosting and all of that. So I'm going to try to do it in the spring as soon as I can. But meanwhile, if anybody wants to come visit, just let me know. If you need some additional assistance on site or something like that, give me a heads up. I won't make you wait 2 weeks or whatever. Just let me know. I would love to have a group come in, or individuals, whatever.
I'm surprised you can't convince the city of Brookhaven to do an accessibility grant to the school.
To the school? Well, I mean,
Well, like
the museum,
to the museum or something.
we do find our own grants. And we have partnered a lot with the city. I'm on the currently on the Arts and Culture Commission for the city of Brookhaven. So the city definitely has a lot of funding, but they're not in the business of, they're not a grant foundation. They're not giving grants. That's not how they kind of function. But we definitely partner with them, and the museum definitely seeks our own grants every year. Like, we got a Georgia Council for the Arts grant recently. We had a Florida
Does
Arts.
the CAB do a grant?
DeKalb County?
Not the city, but the county.
I'm not sure.
They might.
Yeah. Well, and every year, whatever I budget, I mean, we do have quite a few now endowed funds, so we're in a pretty healthy state.
Yeah.
We usually will set aside that funding so that we make sure we have it. We had a few unexpected things pop up this year, which makes it kind of tough.
It is how it is.
What?
It is how it is.
It is how it is, right?
So.
But when I get a phone call from somebody, like, or I didn't get a phone call, but I got a text from a former student who lives in Kyoto in Japan. They don't have a disability. They just live on the other side of the world. And they were like, I'm so excited to visit the museum because I'm not coming home for a long time, and I see it's online. So I'm like, I have to keep this going because it gives us a global reach. It's very cool.
I have a feeling I can think of that student, but I won't name drop them.
Jordan?
Yes.
Yeah, I think Jordan's still in Kyoto. Jordan Michael's one of my favorite alums.
Yeah,
I can choose.
As far as I know, she's still teaching English over there.
Yep.
So.
Yep. Go to Japan and never come back. So yeah, thank you so much for that.
Thank you so much. This was wonderful. You are incredible. You have a gift at doing that. So thank you for sharing it with us.
Oh no, it's my pleasure. Thank you for the insights, particularly into the gays and what that meant. That gave me a whole new layer to think about.
Don't beat yourself up about that. You have way more knowledge about being a child of deaf adults and hearing loss and that level of inclusivity that I might not even know the first thing about.
Right. So I guess that, no, I'm not beating myself up. I want to, at least my hope is that I will always learn something.
Well,
and so I'm excited to learn something from you guys too.
If it makes you feel any better, you've reminded me that I need to go back through all the videos that I have for these and manually add captions. So
right? No, there's always something, right? So it's like, but you know what? This is like back in the day. I'm going to totally age myself here. When the museums first started talking about, going green. and
Yeah.
trying to be more sustainable. And everybody was like, oh, we can't afford it because it's either nothing or it's solar panels. And it's like, yeah, no. Accessibility is not just nothing or solar panels. It's like every step you try, right?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. But the hard part is, you know, there's the extreme end of the spectrum where I know people who think that elevators are inaccessible because elevators break down, and with your degree in universal design, people just think, oh, well, there should be a ramp to get to it. I don't care if it's on the 10th floor, there should be a ramp to get to
All
it.
the way to the 10th floor.
And they don't think about, like, the engineering that goes into that. So,
Right?
yeah.
Right. Yeah. Again, that I keep bringing up Ariana, but when she was a student here at Oglethorpe before she was
Yes.
unable to really get out in the world, she came to me and said, I have an invisible disability and I cannot take an elevator. I will not take an elevator because I have to monitor my calcium. And if I get stuck, I'm in trouble. And so she was one who was like, no elevators, open the stairwell for me, you know? But yeah, you can't get people up on the 10th floor. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, universal design is both, as my advisors say, completely utopian and totally practical. And I hope we're going to just keep moving toward it
Well, we'll get there one day.
someday.
But
Well, all right. Well, y'all are on wonderful. Have a great day.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Have a
Thank
good
you
rest
so
of your
much.
day.
You too. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.